Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 13 of the Rico and Declan College Football Show. I'm your host, Rico. I was supposed to upload episode 12 a few nights ago. Didn't get around to it because it took forever to edit. But we uploaded episode 12. It's available on YouTube. Check it out now. Comment, like, watch, and subscribe. We're at 8 subscribers. I would like to get that number up to 50 by August. So by the season start, hopefully that will be the case. But tonight we're going to be covering the rest of the Big 12. We're going to cover Houston, UCF. Let me just look at my list here. Utah, Colorado, Kansas, and TCU. And like I said before, with the Big 12, I feel like it's a conference that will have one, maybe two representatives for the college football playoff, but it's a tier below, in my opinion, from the ACC. I'm also going to talk about my picks for Player of the Year in the Big 12 and Coach of the Year in the Big 12. I'll give you a hint; it's from the same team, but I won't reveal that information until the end of the podcast. And there's not really that much new news in the college football world. I saw that Notre Dame, they got a 4-star recruit at QB, but I think he's not eligible until next season because he's a 2027 recruit. But other than that, there's no new news. So now let's go right into the content and let's go and cover Houston. So, Houston had a decent season under Willie Taggart. I think that's his name. Get names mixed up here. Let me see here. Willie Fritz. I'm thinking about the Florida State coach, Willie Taggart. But Willie Fritz, he had a... What's the Willie Taggart? Let me look him up. Yeah, it was Willie Taggart. But yeah, anyways, yeah, Houston's coach is Willie Fritz. He did a good job last season. I think they won 8 games. Let me look that up. They went 10-3 actually, and they were 6-3 in the conference. And their roster, if you look at it, it has a bunch of new transfers, a lot on the offensive line, which was one of their weaknesses. They do have Connor Wingman coming back for his senior year. He was the Texas A&M transfer. He lost out his job to I'm just blanking on names tonight, man. Marcel Reed. Yeah, so Marcel Reed took his job, and Wigman has never been the same. So he had 25 touchdowns. He had a good season last season, but not a great season. 25 touchdowns to 90 receptions. I saw him play against West Virginia, and he just did not impress me at all. He actually threw for 309 yards in that game and 4 touchdowns. He's not much of a rusher. He is a rusher. What am I saying? He had over 700 yards rushing. So he is a dual threat QB. Played really good against TCU and Baylor. And Arizona State, he also rushed for 100 yards. So he's exceptional at times, but is he going to show up in the big games? I don't know. Some people have Houston as a top 15 team in the nation. I don't believe they're a contender in that sense. I don't think they're going to be in the top, 15. They might be in the top 20, maybe top 25. but I'm not going to go as high as having them at number 15 or lower. But Wingman he's a good QB, but he's a tier below Brockmeyer. He's a tier below. I'm really blanking on names. I think he's better than Will Hammond, the Texas Tech QB, but I don't think he's better than Brockmeyer, and I don't think he's better than Mestemaker. I think those two guys are better than him. So maybe he's probably the third best QB in the conference. Their running back is Mekhi Hughes. I covered about him in the transfer portal. So Mekhi Hughes, he's an interesting story. He played really well at Tulane, and then he decided to transfer to Oregon for his, I guess it was a junior year. And as you can see, he didn't get many carries. He only got 70 yards off of 17 carries, and he didn't even have a touchdown. Whereas when he played at Tulane, he had over 1,000 yards that one season. I think he was a redshirt freshman or redshirt sophomore. So Mekhi Hughes, he has talent, and I think he's going to really resurrect his career and potentially get drafted in the NFL, maybe as a round 3, round 4 pick. I don't think he's a top, running back in this class of 2027. But he has talent, and I think he's going to get a better opportunity with Houston. And look for him to get, I wouldn't say 900 to 1,000 yards rushing. He's not going to catch a lot out of the backfield. The backup for him is Rashawn Sanford. He's a freshman. Or actually, no, he's I guess he played. That's interesting. So he played in 2024. I guess he was sitting out in 2025. No, nothing about him. But they're going to split carries, but Hughes is the main guy. I think he's going to, have a good season for them. Their receivers, Kobe Young. He's a sophomore. He's going to get more of an opportunity. Trent Walker, he is coming from Oregon State. He had a good season with the Beavers. So this is a guy to look out for, and I think Wingman will have more targets. And this guy's decent, too. If you look at his stats, 2024, he had 81 receptions for 901 receiving yards. Didn't score a lot of touchdowns, but he probably will get more touchdowns with the Cougars. Amari Thomas, he's in the slot. So Thomas is probably their best receiver. He had a nice 2025 season with 67 receptions, 966 yards receiving, and 12 touchdowns. So he's going to be a big target. He played well against UCF, played good against my Mountaineers. He had 3 touchdowns against us. And that was a game that West Virginia actually won. I was shocked by that. Played decent against Baylor. Let's see there. And they have another transfer, Moose Tanakara. He's a Florida transfer, but didn't play at Florida. He's got good size at 6'3", 210. Their tight end is Patrick Overmeyer. So he's coming from UTSA. Okay stats. I mean, he's going into his junior year, so he'll be interesting to watch. And I think they have another transfer. No, they don't have any transfers at the tight end position besides Overmeyer. But Wingman, like I said before, he's probably the third best QB in the Big 12. I still think Brockmeyer and Mestemaker are better. And I think those two teams have better rosters in terms of their offense. And there's nothing much about this guy. All right, so now let's go into their defense. They have some transfers. A lot of transfers are coming from their nickelback and cornerback positions. Defensive end, they do have a new guy, Ashton Porter. He's coming from Oregon. Only 1 sack, but again, this is a guy probably knew that he wasn't getting much of an opportunity with the Ducks, so he went over to the Cougars. Ejiro Igubara, he's coming from Yale. I had no idea Yale had a football team. Well, they're not FBS. Travis Buque. Nothing much about him. Demarion Thomas. So they got a lot of no names in their front seven. Khalil Lafau, he had 2 sacks. Quindario Lee, nothing much about him. He's coming from Central Michigan. Let's look at their other linebackers. Brandon Mack II. He had 5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. So Mack is probably their best defender. He was an Ole Miss transfer a couple years back. Latarion McCutcheon. He played all right for them. 2 picks, that's a lot for a defensive end. Let's look at their linebackers, more of them. Jaden Yates. He's coming from Ole Miss, had half a sack. Again, this is a guy that was SEC talent. Played also at Marshall, so he's also a Sun Belt alum. Miller Malone. Their defense was not good, so I think that's my question mark with them. And they'll go as far as Wingman could take him. Sion Fiato. He's come from a senior year. He was a transfer from Utah a year prior. Had half a sack. Carmika Glass. He had 1 sack. Will James. Yeah, Will James is probably their better, one of their better defenders. He's one of the better cornerbacks in the Big 12. And he's transferred all over the place. J.D. Rhyme. He's an Auburn transfer. Didn't play in 2025. Kentrell Webb. Previously played at Tulane. When I look at this defense, nothing really stands out to me. C.J. Douglas, coming from Sanford. Jordan Allen, LSU transfer. Nothing much about him. Johnsley Barbas. Jalen Mayo, coming from Stephen F. Austin. He's got good size for a corner at 6'2". Kenny Parks, nothing much about him. And then Javion White is the last guy we'll cover. And he had 3 interceptions. So their corners are decent, but it's like I said before, I don't think they can do a lot against those better teams. I think they're like maybe a 7, maybe 8 win team. I'm shocked that they have, there's some analysts that have them, being a top 15 team preseason. I just don't get that. So let's look at their schedule. And then right after this team, we're going to cover UCF. UCF is interesting because they have some transfers, including their QB. He was the JMU QB from last year. All right, so I like the schedule from what I'm seeing. There are winnable games, but there's games that I feel like they're going to struggle in. Okay, let's look at it. Let me see if I could zoom in here because I noticed with the previous podcasts, yeah, I'm trying to figure that out right now. Oh, okay. Sorry, folks. I'm trying to figure this out. Oh, this is good. Yeah, okay. All right, figured it out. And I'm going to probably do that with the rosters, too. So let's look at their 2026 schedule for the Houston Cougars, who won 10 games last season. I thought they won 8. I made a mistake on that. So they start off with Oregon State. That's a home game. I'm going to pick Houston in that one, so that's a win. Versus Southern, I don't know anything about them. That's a win, so they're 2-0. At Texas Tech, I think they're going to have a lot of trouble and a lot of struggles. So I'm going to pick the Red Raiders in that one. That's a loss, so they're 2-1. At Georgia Southern, they should win that game. I'll have them be 3-1. Versus UCF, because it's a home game, I'm picking Cougars again. So that's going to be a win, 4-1. At Kansas State, I picked Kansas State to win that game, so they're 4-2. Versus Oklahoma State, I think I picked Oklahoma State in that one, if I recall. So then now they're 4-3. At Utah, I have them losing that one too, 4-4. I have them beating Cincinnati, so they're 5-4. At Colorado, I have them winning that game, so they're 6-4. At West Virginia, I have them. Man, I think they're going to avenge the loss from last season, so now they're 7-4. And then versus Baylor, I hate Baylor's roster. I think it's terrible. I think they're one of the worst teams in the Big 12. So give me Houston in that game. So I have them at 8-4. I think that's a reasonable record for them because Wingman is he's a good QB, and I think their defense, that's going to be a question mark, but their offense can score. And it really hinges upon their running back. Like I said before with Mekhi Hughes, the thing about him is he has to be consistent, and I think he's going to get more opportunities for sure in this offense compared to what he had to deal with in Oregon. I think Oregon, they didn't give him a chance. I don't know if he had any issues with the coach at the time, but Willie Fritz is a good coach, and he's done wonders with he had done wonders with Tulane, and this Houston team, they're not bad. Like I think they can definitely win 8 games. Definitely better than my school with West Virginia. I don't see us competing compared to them and the upper echelon of the Big 12. Are they a playoff team? No. I think, like I said before, Oklahoma State is a little bit better than them. I have them beating Houston. So being an 8-4 team, that's not a bad record, but you're not going to be in a playoff spot. And Connor Wingman, I think he's good, but I don't think he's great. I didn't see him throw for 3,000 yards for the previous season. So 8-4 for Houston. Again, they're going to be a middle-of-the-pack team in this Big 12 conference. I mean, that's still a good season. It's not a bad season, but they're not a contender to win the conference by any stretch of the means. All right, let's look at the Golden Knights roster, or the Knights roster, the UCF Knights. I don't know why I said Golden Knights. I think I got mixed up with Vegas, with hockey. There we go. For some odd reason, the screen share wasn't working for a little bit. All right, so I zoomed in here. Oh, my apologies. What the heck is this? All right, so they're led by Scott Frost. So Scott Frost came back. I think last season was his first season back. He was the previous head coach before, and then he left for Nebraska because Nebraska was his alma mater. That was his dream job. Didn't work out there, obviously, and now he's back with the Knights. And sorry about these ads, man. It's driving me crazy. He has a talented roster. A lot of transfers, especially on the offensive line. Their starter is going to be Alonzo Barrett. And Alonzo Barnett, I said Barrett. Alonzo Barnett is very talented. I saw him play against Troy in the Sun Belt Championship game. He was excellent in that game. And then against Oregon, he didn't have the best game, but who's going to have the best game against one of the best defenses in the country? Dan Lanning had the Ducks prepared for him, and he didn't really do much. Yeah, I mean, he did throw for 273 yards, but he had 25 incompletions, so that's a lot. And his completion rate is at 58%, so that is going to be a problem. I feel like he's a talented QB, but not to the same level as Connor Wingman. I don't think he's as good as Mestamaker or Brockmeyer. So he's going to have his struggles. I think it's just going to be a tough season for him because you're jumping from the Sun Belt Conference to the Big 12. He is a dual threat QB. He had 589 yards rushing and 15 rushing touchdowns. So he could definitely run with the ball as a QB, but I don't know if that's going to work with UCF. And if Scott Frost doesn't have a winning season, he's going to be on the hot seat. I feel like this team needs to have a bounce back year. I got to look at their roster, but they had a very disappointing return first year for Scott Frost. Or was it his second year? Let me look that up. I always fact check here. I don't have a producer, so I'm doing this all by myself. Scott Frost. So, he coached. So last season was his return to UCF. He went 5-7, and they were 2-7 in the conference. So they need to be better than last season. Apparently, this guy's listed as the first running back, Landon Chambers. There's nothing about him, and he's coming from a JUCO school. So we'll see how that goes. Duke Watson, he probably will be the starter. Let's see his stats. He's coming from Louisville. Didn't do much over with the Cardinals, but maybe this will be a better opportunity for him. Tavion Swent. He's a redshirt freshman. I'm going to look at their tight ends. I'll do things a little bit differently here. Dylan Wade, he's a senior. So Wade, he previously played for Maryland the year before that. He had 523 yards receiving, 43 catches, and 5 touchdowns. So with him, he's got decent size at 6'2", 240. That's funny. He's got a chain that says Wade. I like that. He's probably a cocky guy. But he's a guy that probably they're going to rely on a lot, and Barnett can definitely pass it over to him. And if he has a good season, he could get drafted, maybe a 4th or 5th round pick. Not going to be a top, 3 round pick, in my opinion. Grayson Brichot, I think that's how you say it. He's a Oklahoma State transfer. He's 6'5", 245. He's probably going to be in there for blocking. He's not a possession-type tight end compared to Wade. Running backs, they're weak, and I think that's going to hurt him. Jonathan Bibbs, where is he coming from? UOM. I think that's in the Sun Belt, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see who he played against. Yeah, so he played in the Sun Belt Conference. It's not impressive stats. So, yeah, we'll see how he plays. Rigdarius Farmer, what a name. I think that's how you say it, Rigdarius. Oh, he's from Melbourne. So Melbourne is about like 45 to 50 minutes. No, I would say it's like 50 minutes to an hour away from me. He was a former West Virginia recruit. Wow. Well, I didn't even hear about this kid. Played in 2024, and that was it. And then he decided to sit out 2025, and now he's with the Knights. Wade and Charles, their offense is weak. He's from Boynton Beach, which is not too far away from me. Interesting. Caleb Rollison. Yeah, not much stats to go by. I really don't like their offense. I think Wade is their best offensive player at tight end. All right, this kid has decent numbers. No touchdowns, though. Dwayne Thomas. Josh Derry. Coming from Monmouth. Yeah, the offense doesn't really jump out to me. And I think Alonzo Barnett, he's going to have to do so much for them. And if he gets hurt, which could happen, they have a backup with Keon Jenkins. He's transferring over from Florida International. Not the best stats. And they got two small QBs because Barnett is 5'11". That's being generous. He could be 5'10". And then Jennings, he's listed at 6 feet. He might be shorter than that. All right, let's look at their defense. They have a ton of transfers, but I don't know if all these guys are going to start. Bruno Dahl, he's going to be one of their defensive ends. He's coming from Akron, so he's a MAC action player. 4 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. So decent stats. Okay. Horace Lockett. He's a defensive tackle, 1 sack. So he's gonna get more of an opportunity this season. Whoa. I hate when the browser does this. Like, if I backspace too much, then it'll go back to the main screen. Sincere Edwards, let's look it up, his numbers. He had 1.5 sacks. He's coming from Pitt. Brad Gurley, Eastern Kentucky transfer, nothing about him. So that's a JUCO. Josh Shell. Anything about this guy? He's a defensive tackle. Came from Tennessee, didn't do anything there. Yeah, it's interesting these guys will go from like an SEC team to a bottom tier Big 12 team, and they think they're going to start. They probably won't. He might get some snaps, but I doubt it. RG Jackson. So Jackson, let's look at his numbers. I'm not impressed by this roster at all. I think it's very weak. 1.5 sacks. Thomas Collins. Where is he coming from? Oregon State. He had 1/2 sack. Ken Talley, another defensive end. So he's come from Arkansas, didn't do much there. He'll probably start. Isaiah Nixon. One sack. Tackett Curtis. That's an interesting name, Tackett. Never heard of it. He came from Wisconsin, had 1 sack. Jaleel Colbreth. Came from Old Dominion. He had 3 sacks. But again, this is a Sun Belt Conference guy. Not going to do much in this conference, I don't think. Antoine Jackson. Let's see Jackson's stats. His cornerback. He had 5 pass deflections. That's all right. You got to get picks, man. Jalen Duffy. I think that's how you say it. He's a transfer from North Dakota State. Not going to do much. Damari Henderson. 1 interception, 1 pass deflection, 42 tackles. He's probably one of the better defenders. This defense is terrible. I'm just going off of stats. I'm not impressed at all. Jaden Williams. Nothing right home about. Ty Bartram. the Harvard transfer. Again, these guys are not good. Caleb Flagg. 2 pass deflections. Okay, that's not saying much. I think they have a better roster than West Virginia, but, like, they're not good, man. Jaden Bellamy. So this guy's been all over the place. He went from Notre Dame to Syracuse, and now he's at UCF. 1 interception, 8 pass deflections. So he's better. He's one of their better corners. DJ Bell, and then the last one is Marshall. 4 pass deflections. All right, that's okay. And then Braden Marshall, 2 interceptions. Okay. This roster, man, they don't. When I'm looking at with their front 7, they don't really have a lot of guys that stand out and that could sack the QB. And then their secondary, it's okay, but it's not great. And again, they're going to rely so much on Alonzo Barnett that I think Barnett is going to get hurt. I think the pass protection is not going to be there. I might be wrong, but, like, this roster is not good. It's brutal. I got to look at their schedule. And the team we're covering after this will be... Okay, so let's look at their schedule. Oh, hang on one second, guys. I'm going to check who I'm covering next. We're going to be covering Utah. I really like Utah. I think they're a dark horse to win the conference. They have a lot of guys coming back. And they lost some guys to Michigan that are going to be joining... why am I blanking on his name? Kyle Whittingham. So Kyle Whittingham's gone, and who could blame him? I mean, he's going to a better program in Michigan. All right, let's look at this UCF roster. I mean their schedule, man. I'm brain farting. All right, so they start off with Bahane Cookman. I don't even know what school. I've heard of this school. I don't know where it's at. That's a win. At Pitt, that's a loss. I don't like this roster at all, and I think they're going to struggle against the Panthers. I think I picked Pitt to win that game when I did the ACC previews. I'm pretty sure I did. So now they're 1-1. Versus Georgia State, that's a win, so they're 2-1. Versus TCU, that's a loss. They're 2-2. At Houston, that's a loss, 2-3. At Oklahoma State, that's a loss, 2-4. Versus BYU, that's a loss, 2-4. Versus Baylor, it's a battle of the mid. I think I picked Baylor to win that game, so they're 2-5. At Kansas, I'll pick them to beat Kansas. I think Kansas is worse than them, so now they're 3-5. Versus Arizona State, that's a loss, 3-6. Versus Iowa State, I think I picked them to win that game, so they're 4-5 or 4-6 or something like that, 5-6. And then at Colorado, you know what? I'll pick Colorado to win that game. I think UCF is not good, man. So out of these games, I picked them to win. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I picked them to lose against Colorado. I'll check that. I'll have them go 4-8. I think they're not a good team. They could go 5-7, but, like, this roster is very poorly comprised. I'm not impressed by their defense at all. And like I said before, if Barnett gets hurt, then they're pretty much screwed. Just a lot of question marks. And that's the whole thing, is if you're reliant on your QB to do everything, he's probably going to lose steam, he's going to lose stamina, and he's going to get hurt. So I don't think they're going to have a good season. They could go at best 5-7, maybe 6-6, but they're a 4-8 team in my opinion. They're going to lose a lot of conference games. They have a hard schedule. Not big believers in them. And it's weird, too, that they're in this conference because didn't they play in the American Conference? Yeah, they were in the American Conference, and they were the darlings of the American Conference. And then when the Big 12, I guess they had a conference with them or talk with them, meeting, whatever, they probably were like, oh, you're going to get so much more money going to the Big 12, which they have generated revenue, right? But now they're a small fish in a big pond. They used to be the big fish in the small pond. And that's the thing with these teams is like you could be a great team in one conference and then the next conference you're bottom tier. And I just don't think they're going to compete. Basketball, they're like, all right, they made the tournament last season, but they have to compete for recruits, that are coming from Texas. You also have, Florida recruits too. UCF is not their first choice. They're more likely to go to Florida State, not Florida State because we stink, but Florida or Miami, and I bet too that they've lost out on recruits in Texas. So yeah, there's a lot of question marks with this roster. I'm not a fan of their team, and I just don't think they're going to win many games. I think they'll win more games than us because I have us going 3-9, but that's not saying much. All right, now I'm going to go over Utah. So Utah, I really like their roster, and I know that they lost Kyle Whittingham. He's going over to Michigan, as I said before. And like I said, as I alluded to, Whittingham made the right choice because it seemed like to me, and I heard about this, and I would watch games that Utah was playing in, there was always rumblings that they wanted to move on from him. I don't know if that meant they wanted to fire him or they just simply had made an agreement, hey, this is your last season with us. You could either retire or go somewhere else. And he took, the offer at Michigan. And so the guy that's replacing him was his longtime assistant, Morgan Scaley. And there are some people saying that he could be a tier below what Whittingham was. And Whittingham built that program from the ground up, and he made them a perennial powerhouse team. And it's just a different roster right now. But they do have a lot of guys coming back. If you look at the offensive line, it's pretty much the same as last season. And Devin Dampier, I think he's a good QB, but there were some games that he made some questionable throws, and you're like, what is he doing? He had a nice season with 2,490 yards passing, 24 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He had a 64% completion rate, which is very good. He's small at 5'11", 210, but he's a dual threat QB. Rushed for 835 yards, and then the season before that, 1166. So he is fully capable of being that dual threat QB they need him to be. And he played great for New Mexico, and then at Utah, it's kind of the same. Played great against Nebraska. In that game, they just balled out. They played phenomenal in that ball game. I watched that game. And I think it was the Las Vegas Bowl. So if you look at the stats, there are some games that stand out, but there's other ones that I'm like, what happened here? Struggled against Baylor, which is really odd. He did not play good against Arizona State. He did not play good against Texas Tech. I actually watched that game. Played terrible in that game. Texas Tech just manhandled them. And that was a home game for Utah. That was on, I think it was a big noon game on Fox, pretty sure. So he for the most part, he played great. But then there were some games like that he didn't do so well. Saw him play well against Kansas. He destroyed them. And then the BYU game, 16 incompletions. He has to limit the incompletions. The factor this season compared to last season for Dampier is that he gets to play that game at home. So he's very talented. I think he's better than Connor Wingman. If I'm being honest, it's like between the two of them, I would take Dampier. Hang on, I got to take this ad off. These ads are so stupid, man. Another ad. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I would take Dampier over Wingman. But then the other two, Brockmeyer and then Mestemaker, it's in that order pretty much. All right, let's look at their running back, and it's a returning guy, Wayshawn Wayshawn Parker. He had a nice season. He's going into his junior season. So he had 981 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. Decent numbers receiving with 13 receptions for 185 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did have 3 fumbles, so that's something that he has to correct on. But if you look at his games that he played in, Parker, he played really well against Kansas State, Baylor, Cincinnati, and Colorado. He can rush for 100 yards. He's fully capable of it. Didn't do much against my Mountaineers, actually. And then there's some other games that he didn't do as well as you see here. But he had, 4 straight games of 100 yards rushing or more. So he's going to be relied upon a lot in this offense. I do think he's a talented running back. He's explosive at times. Daniel Bray. I watched a couple of Utah's games. I didn't see that many. I think I saw maybe like 4 or 5 of their games. He's a good, 1-2 punch for them. He's going to get a supplement of carries as well. I'm going to get some water after I go over the roster because my mouth is parched. Okay, so let's look at the receivers. Larry Simmons, he's returning for a senior year. Simmons, 6'1", 190, decent size as a receiver. He's going to get more reps. He had only 15 receptions for 280 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns. So this is a guy that's going to definitely get a boatload of catches. Tobias Merriweather, he didn't play much, so he's probably going to be the backup to him. Brendan Pagan, he's a transfer coming from Utah State. Decent numbers, 6'3", 210, so he's going to be a guy that can help out Dampier. Kyrie Scholes, he's coming from San Jose State. Kyrie Scholes could be definitely a good slot receiver for them. And then you have Ricky Johnson. He's a transfer going into sophomore season from Mississippi State. So there is talent with this receiving core. I really think that Kyrie Scholes and Brendan Pagan can really help out Larry Simmons with the workload. And then there's the tight ends, Hunter Andrews. I think he played well in their bowl game against Nebraska. I think he had – wow. So I was wrong. This is a different guy. Apparently, this is interesting. So this kid, he was actually a defensive player last season and the season before that, but then I guess they converted him to be a tight end. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if he's going to be the starter. Noah Benny. Nothing much about him. So tight ends could be a situation of some question marks. We'll see how that goes. Will Money. It's a cool name. Guys, I'm going to get water after I go over this player because my mouth is shot. All right. I'll keep it on their roster. I'm going to go over to their defense. If you see ads, just don't mind it. I'll be right back and I'll exit out of them. All right, so Lance Holtzclaw, he's a defensive end. 1.5 sacks. He's going to get more reps this season as a senior. Paul Fitzgerald, he had 0.5 sack. Carson Cavacioli, I feel like I've heard about him. He's a defensive tackle, 0.5 sack. Jerry Moe, coming from San Jose State. So they have two transfers from San Jose State. Jahmai Wallace, or Jamal Wallace. My eyesight is terrible. I need to wear my glasses. Popeye Savapolone. So, nothing about him. Lucas Simsola, 1.5 sacks. Yeah, the front seven doesn't scare me. Ethan Day, coming from North Texas. Interesting, he didn't go to Oklahoma State with Eric Morris. That's interesting. Instead, he's going to be in a Big 12 rival. He had 4.5 sacks. So Day will probably be one of the better defenders for them. Cash Dillon, he had 3.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Cyrus Polo, there's really nothing about this kid. Trey Reynolds, 1.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, so he'll probably get more reps. Jonathan Hall, our linebacker, he had 4 pass deflections, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble. Elijah Ellis, 2 sacks. Yeah, their linebackers are all right. They're better than their defensive tackles and defensive ends. Elijah Davis. So let's look at their secondary. He had 2 interceptions. Good size at a corner, 6 feet. Rabbit Evans. Interesting. Coming from Blinn College. Who names their kid Rabbit? It's a stupid name. Nate Ritchie. Yeah, their secondary is not great. Jackson Benny. He's probably going to be the starter. I don't know why he's not listed the starter. 5 pass deflections, 4 interceptions. So he's one of their better defenders. Elijah Reed. Decent numbers. Where is he coming from? Let me look that up. Akron. So he's a MAC action recruit. Actually, no, he was a Kentucky recruit. So he went from the SEC to the MAC. Interesting. James Chalnett, he had 2 interceptions. So they got a lot of guys that can intercept the football. That's impressive. Rock Caldwell, he had 1 interception. Excuse me. All right, so I'm going to pull up their schedule here. I like their offense with Dampier and who's the running back? With Dampier and Parker. Parker and Bray are the key to their offense. But those transfers that they have at the receiver with Scholes and Pagan, that will really help them out. But again, I think Parker's a huge part. He's a huge part to their success. And Dampier, he's a great QB when he's on. Let's look at their schedule. So they had a good season last season. They were third in the Big 12. I think they had 11 wins or 10 wins, something like that. Let's look at their schedule. So they're playing against Idaho to start off the season. That's a win. Okay, so this is an interesting game. They're playing against Arkansas. an SEC team. That's a 10-15 game. It's in Utah. You know Utah's going to be rocking. That home field advantage that they have over there is impressive. So give me the Utes in that one. So they're 2-0. I don't think Arkansas is that good. I was surprised that they list that as a 10-15 game on ESPN. Versus Utah State. Utah State, they're kind of middle of the pack in terms of their conference in the Mountain West. So now they're going to be 3-0 after that one. At Iowa State, that's a win, 4-0. Versus Kansas, that's a win, 5-0. At Colorado, that's a win, 6-0. Versus Houston, that's a win, 7-0. At Cincinnati, that's a win, 8-0. Versus BYU, now that it's being played in Utah, give me the Utes, 9-0. At Arizona, I think I picked Arizona to win this game, if I recall. Let me see where I had them picked as. Or maybe no, I think I picked Utah. So that's a win, 10-0. I think they're going to lose against TCU. I think there's one game in the schedule that they should win, and they're going to lose that one. So I will say they'll lose against TCU, and then they'll beat my Mountaineers. They'll kill us. So I got them at 11-1. And so they would be tied with Texas Tech, and I think I should talk about who I have winning that conference because I have BYU at 10-2. This was all because I didn't look at the schedules for the other teams, and I do it day-by-day basis, but I think it's going to be between Utah and Texas Tech for the Big 12 title. And do I think Devin Dampier is going to avenge that loss he had against Texas Tech? I'm going to say yes, and I'll tell you why. I like their offense more than Texas Tech's offense. I think Texas Tech has a better defense than them, but when it comes down to QBs, I'm going to trust Devin Dampier over Will Hammond any day. He has more experience. He led them to a successful record last season. And I know Kyle Whittingham's gone. I know it's going to be different, but they're going to play with a chip on their shoulder. I think they're going to prove people wrong. And I really hope that the committee acknowledges if they have two teams that finish 11-1 in this conference and give them both playoff berths. I think Utah and BYU, I almost said BYU. I think that Utah and Texas Tech deserve to make the playoff if they both finish 11-1 or one finishes 10-2. And then, you know what I mean? Like, this conference is always overlooked. And there is talent in this conference. And I know that Texas Tech, they didn't play their best game against Oregon, but you could also fault that on the offense. This Utah team, they could win in the first round of the playoff. I don't think they're going to win in the second round, but they could shock some people. And I do think when it comes down to rosters, I like their offense a little bit more than Texas Tech's offense. And their defense, I was looking at their secondary, they have some guys who go ball out. Now, their front seven is weak, but their corners are strong, and they have a lot of talent there. And again, with those transfers in the wide receiver depth chart, they're going to be proven to be huge assets. They have a lot of offensive linemen coming back. They have to do a better job of protecting Dampier in those pivotal games. So if they win 10 or 11 wins, they should be a playoff team. And I think I initially picked Texas Tech, but then when I looked at the schedule and I looked at the rosters, I'm picking Utah because of their offense. That's, I mean, I did not think that yesterday, but now that I've looked at this roster today, because I'm doing this, like, the whole thing about doing these podcasts, right, is I could look at all the rosters beforehand, but I do it on the fly because then I have, like, a better memory of it, I guess. But I really like their roster, and I really like Dampier, and I think he's going to avenge that loss that they had against Texas Tech. They got killed in that game, and they should have won that game. It was a home game, and he really did horrible. He's a good dual threat QB. All right, we got 3 more teams, and the next 2 are probably going to be bomb feeders in the Big 12. I'm going to just skim through them. Colorado and Kansas. So let's go over Colorado. I love Deion Sanders. I've always been a huge fan of him, but his roster is very weak. And I think if they have a bad season, that's it for Deion. He's going to get fired. I don't think it's going to – I had a feeling it was not going to last when he was first hired. I thought he would be there for like 2 years. He's going on year, was it 3 or 4? But Colorado is just not a good team. All right, so their QB is Julian Lewis. He is a freshman, redshirt freshman. There's nothing much to go by with Julian Lewis. And, yeah, he played good against West Virginia. He played okay against Arizona State and okay against Arizona. And I don't know if he's a dual threat QB. He's not a big QB at 6'1", 190. But again, I don't think he's better than Alonzo Barnett. I don't. I think that Connor Wingham is definitely better. Let's look at their running backs. Richard Young, he's a transfer. He's coming from Alabama. I think I covered him when I was going over the transfer portal. 5'11", 210. So he didn't really play much for the Crimson Tide last season. He didn't really do much at all. So Kalen DeBoer never really gave this kid a shot. Maybe he could go off for them. But again, that's a question mark. We'll see. But again, he's an Alabama recruit. He's definitely talented. Mekhi Welch, he had a decent season at 384 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. Got 96 carries. That probably will go up. He'll probably have 100 carries. So their running backs are okay, but again, they're relying on a guy in Richard Young who may or may not be good. DeAndre Moore Jr. So he's coming from Texas. DeAndre Moore Jr. is one of the better wide receiver transfer portals. So I think he could be talented for them, but the whole question with him is, does he have a QB? And I don't know with Julian Lewis. I didn't watch him at all, so I don't really have a parameter of how he's going to do. Joseph Williams, he's coming from Tulsa. Decent numbers. Well, actually, he played for the Buffaloes last season. Cam Perry, I think I talked about him in the transfer portal. I'm pretty sure I mentioned his name. He's coming from Miami of Ohio. So Cam Perry will probably be the second receiver in their offense. He had a good season at 976 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns and 43 catches. He could be also playing in the slot. They might move him down there. But then they have Danny Scuderio. I think he came from San Jose State. Yes, I was right. So this kid is arguably one of the better receivers in college football. Look at the stats he had. But again, he was playing in a very low-end, lesser conference in the Mountain West. He's going into a better conference in the Big 12. I'm going to look at his game splits. He's talented. He's definitely talented. So their receivers are good, but their running game is going to be a struggle. And again, I don't know if Julian Lewis is up for the task. And if I'm looking at this kid's numbers, he went off against Hawaii, played good against Wyoming, played good against New Mexico, played good against Stanford and Idaho. He did okay against Texas, nothing much to write home about, and then he played good against Central Michigan. So Scuderio is decent. So Moore, Williams, and Scuderio, they could be a good trio of receivers for them. Ernest Campbell is another guy that they got. He's coming from Sacramento State. He was a Texas A&M recruit at one point. And then let's look at their tight ends. They have Zach Atkins coming back. He's coming for his senior season. Nothing much to write home about. And then their transfer was Fisher Clements. And he's coming from Northern Colorado. So when you look at their offense, the wide receivers jump out to me. I think they could be talented for them, but is Julian Lewis the guy? And the guy that's playing backup to him is Isaac Wilson. And he was a backup to Devin Dampier over at Utah. So it's going to be interesting with them. Can that hold up? Look at their defense. This could be good. It could be also bad. They have a ton of transfers. Their whole defense is pretty much made up of transfers. Emmanuel, how do you pronounce his name? Azaku. He's coming from James Madison. He had only 1 sack and 1 forced fumble. Toby Ananene. He's coming from North Dakota State. There's no numbers on him. Dylan Manuel. He's a nose tackle. Coming from Appalachian State. Tyler Moore. 5'11", 290. Man, this kid is huge. Santana Hooper. Or Hopper. Is it Hooper? Hopper. It's Hopper. 4.5 sacks. He's coming from Tulane. Ezra Christensen. Defensive tackle from New Mexico State. He had 6 sacks. So this kid is definitely going to get his reps. Vele Telefofio. Is that how you say it? I'm not sure. Also, another San Jose State transfer. There are a lot of guys from San Jose State going to the Big 12. 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He's from New Zealand. Bowen Sama Kamara. It's good size at 6'3", 260. Lana Lafayu. He's coming from Texas. He had 1 sack. This is a guy that's going to get more reps. He's from Hawaii. Carson Crawford and Kobe Johnson are both freshmen. See how that goes. Gideon Lempron. He was coming from Bowling Green. 65 solo tackles. That's impressive for a linebacker, and he had 119 in total. And he had 17.5 tackles for a loss. That's really good. 2 forced fumbles and 4 QB hits. So this is a guy that can emerge into being a great player for them. And if he has a great season, he could be a round 6, round 7 pick. Or he could be undrafted free agent in the NFL. So Gideon Lempron is excellent. I feel like Tyler Martinez, let's look up him. Nothing much about him. Creed Thomas. He's a corner. He had 1 pass deflection. So their corners, I think that's going to be their weakness. RJ Johnson. I might be wrong. Arkansas, he had 1 interception. Rendon Fontenay? Fournette. I think it's Fournette. That's how you say it. 1 forced fumble. He's coming from Vanderbilt. Ben Ficef? Is that how I say it? Nathan Mitchell. He's coming from New Mexico State. He had 3 picks and 6 pass deflections, 4 forced fumbles. That's impressive. So this is a guy that can also help them out. So Lempron and Mitchell could be a good 1-2 punch in their defense. Jaden Hardy. Their roster's not half bad. I think they're better than Iowa State. 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. He's coming from Oklahoma. Justin Eglin, or Eaglin? I think it's Eaglin. So bad at pronouncing names. He's coming from JMU. He had 5 interceptions. So, yeah, Eaglin is probably one of the better, corners in terms of transfers. Emory Floyd, 1 interception. Boo Carter. So let's see how Boo did. Tennessee player, or Tennessee transfer. So he had 3 forced fumbles and 3 pass deflections. He's another guy that can improve his numbers with the Buffaloes. And then Paul Amodier. He had no numbers because he came from Lamar. All right, so Julian Lewis, I think that's the whole key for them in terms of how they're going to perform. If Lewis plays well, then they're going to win more games. But again, I don't – their defense is better than I thought, at least from looking at these numbers. LeBron is definitely going to be a key to their defense in terms of linebackers. And then Eaglin in their secondary, because he had 5 interceptions for JMU. That's impressive. All right, let's see their schedule. So they were 15th in the Big 12, a very bad season. And again, like I said before, if they have a losing record, Deion's out. He's going to get fired, I think. All right, they play at Georgia Tech. I'm going to pick the Yellow Jackets in that game. I don't see them competing against Georgia Tech in that one. I think it could be a blowout. Might be wrong. It's a Thursday night game. Interesting. Weber State, they'll beat, so they're 1-1. At Northwestern. Northwestern's in a rebuild, and I got to look at their roster, but I don't think that it's going to be interesting. I feel like Northwestern, they were up and down last season. I got to see who they have coming back. I'm going to pick Northwestern. I don't think Colorado's that good. So now they're 1-2. At Baylor, that's a loss. 1-3. Versus Texas Tech, that's a loss. And now they're 1-4. Versus Utah, they're 1-5. That's a loss. At Oklahoma State, that's a loss. 1-6. Deion could get fired at that point. Versus Kansas State, that's a loss. 1-7. At Arizona State, that's a loss. 1-8. Versus Houston, I think I picked them to beat Houston. I don't remember, but you know what? I'll say that's a win, and then I think they could beat Houston. I think they'll beat Cincinnati because Cincinnati's roster is very weak, and then they'll beat UCF. So I got them going 4-8. I think they're not that good. They have a lot of transfers. And, yeah, maybe that could work out. Maybe they could surprise people. But, 4-8 for them. All right, Kansas. I think Kansas is the worst team in the Big 12. All right, so we have 2 more rosters to cover. So we have Kansas and TCU. So I'll pull them up here. I'm getting tired. Ugh. Ugh. They were 11th in the Big 12. They're led by Lance Leipold. They made they got some transfers, but the QB position is going to be a question mark for them. They lost a lot of guys to the transfer portal, and guys graduated or declared for the draft. All right, so their new QB is Isaiah Marshall. This could be an up for grabs position. He's a sophomore. I don't know anything about him. But it could be his drop to lose to Cole Ballard. Man, their QB position is very weak. Chase Jennings. Coming from Rice. Yeah, their QB position is terrible. I thought we had a bad position at QB, but theirs is worse. Oh, these stupid ads, man. All right, Dylan Edwards. He's coming from Kansas State. So Dylan Edwards, he was a recruit with Colorado. Then he jumped over to Kansas State. He played very little last season because he got hurt. The whole thing with him is durability. He has to stay healthy. And maybe he could bounce back for them. I don't know. I'm just laughing because this is not going to be a good team. Yasin Willis. So he's a Syracuse transfer. Decent numbers with the orange. Jalen Dupree. Coming from Colorado State. So he could have okay numbers, you know. All right, let's see their tight end. Carson Braun. Nothing much to write home about. He's a big dude. He's 6'5", 6'6", I think it said. Layden Cure. All right, let's look at their wide receivers. Nick McMillan, coming from Buffalo. He had decent numbers last season. I mean, again, that's in the MAC. How's he going to do it with no QB? That stinks, man. You're going into your senior year with this team, man. What is with all these ads, man? Jaden Nickens. Nothing much about him. Najee Cox. Najee, how did you do? Oh, okay, numbers from Middle Tennessee. Keaton Kukabaka, I think that's how you say it. Kukabaka. Really nothing much about him. Let's look at their defense. Yeah, this is not a good team. Their offense is horrible. Alex Bray. Nothing much about him. David Santiago. 1.5 sacks. Trayvon McAlpiny. 1 sack. Okay. Iman Smalls. He had 1 sack. Blake Harold. 2 sacks. Okay. Marcus Calvin. 1 sack. Leroy Harris III. Coming from Chattanooga. Nothing much about him. Dagus Brinkley. Yeah, this defense is weak. Devon Crouch. He had 1 sack. Coming from Boston College. Jabril Al-Amin. 3 sacks coming from Marshall, so a Sun Belt transfer. Trey Laffin. Oh, yeah, he played at West Virginia. I remember him. He's okay. He had 86 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss. Okay. Decent numbers. Quincy Davis. Nothing much about him. Jalen Todd. No interceptions. Roman Pearson. Coming from Ball State. 1 interception. Corey Gordon. Nothing much about him. Kajon Cummings Coleman. Nothing much about him. Taylor Davis. We're almost done with this roster. They have no QB, man. And their running backs are weak, too. Jaden Harris. Yeah, there's nothing. Interesting story with this guy. He played in Miami and then Georgia. Didn't get much of a chance, I guess. Austin Alexander. 2 pass deflections. Jahil Hurley. Saeed Gibbs. And last but not least, Mason Ellis. Nothing much. All right. Yeah, this team sucks. I'm sorry, Kansas. I'm sure you're nice people, but your team is terrible. I think they'll win 1 or 2 games. I gotta look at their schedule. It's not a football school. It's a basketball school, man. All right, against LIU. I'm from Long Island. I'm picking Kansas in that one, so 1-0. Versus Missouri, that's a loss, 1-1. They'll get killed by Missouri. I think Mizzou will destroy them in that game. Versus Arizona State, that's a loss. Versus Middle Tennessee. I'm picking Middle Tennessee, man. I don't know anything about Middle Tennessee. I don't know about their roster, but when I just looked at this roster, man, it's dog poop. So, yeah, they're 1-3. At Utah's a loss. At Kansas State's a loss. Versus Baylor, that's a loss. Or maybe I picked that. No, I'm picking Baylor in that one. At TCU, that's a loss. Versus UCF, that's a loss. At West Virginia, that's a loss. Versus BYU, that's a loss. And versus Oklahoma State, that's a loss. 1-11. Yeah, they don't have a QB, man. And if you don't have a QB and you're relying on a running back in Dylan Edwards, who is historically known for getting hurt a lot, and if he gets hurt and the backup's not that good, they're terrible. And their defense is not that good either. Yeah, 1-11, man. I think they're the worst team in the Big 12. All right, last team, TCU. So TCU had a disappointing 2025 season. They finished, let me see their 2025 record. They were 5-4 in the conference, 9-4 in general. They won 3 straight to end the season. So, but I also think that was because of Hoover. I think Hoover was such a big part of their offense. Now that he's gone, he left for Indiana, they're not going to be the same team. And they're a pass-first offense. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with their new QB. Sonny Dykes has done a great job with them. They won a playoff game a few years back against Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl. But they have not been relevant since that time. I mean, I know they won 9 games last season, but still. They're led by Jaden Craig. Now, Jaden Craig, he was highly touted because he was coming from Harvard. And I don't have his stats here, but he played really well for the, I think they're called the Crimson. But that's the thing, man. He's coming from the Ivy League. And their backup is Adam Schobel. And they have Jack Dalton as the freshman. So they have two freshmen. So if this guy gets hurt, if Jaden Craig gets hurt, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. He's a graduate transfer. I'm not knocking on Jaden Craig. I think he's good, but there's a lot of question marks. And again, he's coming from Harvard. He's not coming from a Sun Belt team. He's not coming from a Mountain West team. He's coming from Harvard. So it's not an FBS program. So this is going to be interesting to see how he does. Jeremy Payne is coming back for his junior year, my mistake. He had decent numbers. They don't run the ball a lot. So maybe that will change with Jaden Craig. Jaden Craig is also a dual threat QB. So they have Landon Walker, Colorado School of Mines. I saw another guy in the Big 12 from that school transferring over. Let's look at their tight ends. Lafayette, Kway. Not much to go by. Kamarian Pimpton. He's an LSU transfer. But then played for LSU last season. Let's look at the receivers. Jordan Dwyer. Dwyer, I think, was their leading receiver. Yeah, he had a good season last season. 54 receptions for 730 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's gotten better every season. But here's the thing. If you look at his numbers, let's get rid of this ad. He did not do well against Houston, did not do well against BYU. BYU held him in check. Didn't do well against my Mountaineers, shockingly. And he had only 3. He had only 3 games where he had 100 yards receiving. So this guy's really hit or miss. He's not consistent. Terry Shelton. He probably will get more opportunity. Big dude at 6'4". He's definitely going to get more of an opportunity this season, redshirt freshman. All right, another transfer for them, Jeremy Scott. He's coming from South Alabama. There's not much to go by. Again, the Sun Belt, he had 2 games of over 100 yards receiving. Didn't do much against Auburn. He did have a touchdown against them. Doze is a Kanami. I think that's how you say it. Not much to go by. Ed Small, he's playing the slot. He had 2 touchdowns. Okay, so he'll get more reps as a sophomore. They got a young team. A lot of red shirts. Major Everhart. Now let's look at their defense. So, yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing with them is if Jaden Craig plays to his full potential, this could be a surprise team in the Big 12. I mean, I was shocked to see in the record, too, from last season they won 9 games. I had no idea. But, again, Josh Hoover was a huge loss, and I think that Jaden Craig is a step down from him. So Paul Olaweye, he had 21 tackles and 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble. So decent stats from your defensive tackle. Karan Hayward, he's going to be also in there. Karan had 2.5 sacks and 1 interception. Marcus Deal, 1 sack, 10 tackles. Okay. Kyron Lindgren. Man, it's taking forever to load. Nothing much about him. Ansel Dinmobe. He had 2 sacks coming from Washington. Well, he played for them last season. 6'3", 300 pounds. Holy smokes. So he's good against the run. Tristan Johnson. He had 1.5 sacks and 1 forced fumble. Zach Chapman, 1.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Not impressed by their defense. I think they gave up a lot of points last season. They could outscore people last season, but this is going to be different. Like I said before, Craig is not the same player as Hoover. Not even as good. Did I go over Max Carroll? I think I did. Is Max Carroll related to Kalen Carroll? I think they're brothers. I might be wrong on that. 2 interceptions, 31 tackles. Okay. Michael Short, 1 sack. Yeah, they don't really have a good front 7. This is going to be a problem for them. Hudson Hooper. Nothing much about him. Jamal Johnson. He had 5 interceptions. So he could definitely be a big part of their defense. Caden McFadden. Nothing much to go by. Yeah, I think their best defender is Johnson when I'm looking at their stats. Jacob Fields, 3 interceptions. Vernon Glover, 1 interception. I like Johnson a lot. I think he's one of their better players. Kylan Jackson, 1 pass deflection. And then we'll go over these next guys. Jordan Lester, 2 pass deflections. Devontre McGee. Nothing much about him. And then last but not least is Julius Sims. All right. So when you look at this roster, it all depends on Craig. If this guy can play up to his potential, they can be a contender for this conference. But there's just a lot of question marks. So I'm not sure. I do think they'll beat UNC. That's such an annoying matchup. Like, so random. You have a Big 12 team against an ACC team, but I still think they'll win that game. It's a home game for them too, right? Yeah. Pick TCU in that game. So they're 1-0, 2-0 against Grambling, 3-0 against Arkansas State, 4-0 against UCF. I think they have a better roster than the Knights. Versus BYU, I think I picked them to beat BYU. But I like BYU's roster more. I don't remember. I'm exhausted, so if I make a mistake, don't fault me. I'm gonna say that they'll win. I'll say BYU wins that game, so they're gonna be 4-1 at Baylor. I think I picked them to beat Baylor, So they're 5-1 versus West Virginia. That's a win. 6-1 versus Kansas. That's a win. 7-1 at Arizona. I think I picked Arizona to win that game, so they're 7-2. Versus Kansas State, that's a loss. I think I picked them to beat Kansas State, so that's a win. 8-2. Versus Utah, that's a loss. So I have them at 8-3. And then at Texas Tech, that's a loss. I have them going 8-4. I think they're going to be good, but I don't think they're a contender to win this conference. They could be at worst 5-7 if stuff goes awry. You know what? Yeah, I'll have them go 8-4. Yeah, I think that they're better than Arizona. I think they're better than Arizona State. Arizona State, there's a lot of question marks. And I think Kenny Dillingham's a better coach than Sonny Dykes. But Sonny Dykes, he won 9 games last season. And I think they're going to regress a little bit. But we'll go from there. But that was it with the Big 12. Let's go over our player and coach of the year. So, again, I'm picking Utah to win the conference in the conference championship game. And I think there will be 2 teams to represent the Big 12 in the playoff. I hope that's the case. I hope it's not just one. The committee just loves to pick SEC teams. It's just so biased, man. It's ridiculous. But I'm picking Utah to win the conference, and then Utah and Texas Tech to represent the Big 12. And if they say, okay, you know what, Texas Tech didn't really have a hard schedule, we're still going to pick just one team out of the Big 12, they'll just pick Utah. So, again, Utah and Texas Tech for the playoff spots. And then the records go like this. So I have Texas Tech and Utah at 11-1, BYU at 10-2, West Virginia at 3-9, Cincinnati 4-8, Kansas State 9-3, Baylor 4-8, Oklahoma State 9-3, Arizona State 7-5, Arizona 6-6, Iowa State 4-8, Houston 8-4, UCF 4-8, Colorado 4-8, Kansas 1-11, and TCU 8-4. So, guys, that was it with the predictions for the Big 12. And for my player of the year will be Drew Mestemaker, and then the coach of the year will be Eric Morris, because Oklahoma State, they were horrendous last season. It was a season to forget. They fired Mike Gundy. It just was a toilet bowl of a season. And now they have a lot of promise and a lot of potential with this huge overhaul of transfers coming mostly from North Texas. So we'll see what Morris can do. And I'll root for them, man. Like, that team is going to be fun to watch. My Mountaineers, man, they build, they're not good enough to win, I think, more than 3 games, maybe 4 games or 5 games. They're not a playoff team. And as a West Virginia fan, you have to be patient. It's going to take some time. I don't think Rich Rod should get fired after this season, but if it doesn't go well next season, then, the seat's going to be burning up, and I think he might get fired. I do see some coaches getting fired this season. Dion, I think Colorado is not that good. I think Kansas's coach is going to get fired. Their roster is horrible. They have no QB. I don't think Scott Frost will get fired, but his seat will be also burning up, so he'll be on the hot seat as well. The Baylor coach, I think he's going to get fired, Dave Armada. So there'll be 3 or 4. I think 3 or 4 coaches out of this conference after the season will get fired. But I just wanted to tell you guys again, thank you for subscribing. We're at 8 followers. I might be wrong. Let me check the page right now to get an update. It's 11:56. I'm exhausted. And I was debating if I was going to do this tonight, but I just want to keep the ball rolling. I just want to keep doing more and more. So Yeah, we're at 8 subscribers. So if you guys could tell your friends and family members about this podcast, and so that way we could get more views. I would like to get it transferred over to Apple or Apple Podcasts, like whatever. What are they called? I have it on my I have it on my app here. Yeah, I need to get it, transferred over to Apple Podcasts, but I got to figure that out. Not tomorrow because I'm going to be watching the NHL draft, but Saturday after my game, I have an early game on Saturday. I have a 6:30 game. I'm going to record episode 14, which will be the Big Ten. We'll start off by covering, I want to say 5, maybe 6 teams on Saturday, and then on Sunday and Monday, it depends. I might be covering the rest of the Big Ten in those next 2 days. Tuesday, I'm not recording because I'm going to be packing for my trip to Ohio with my wife and my son. We're leaving on Wednesday, and then I come back on July 11th, but I'm not going to record the day I come back. I'll record, I think, 2 days after. I'll figure it out, but I'm going to be taking a break from podcasting during that time. I'm just, spending time with my family and enjoying the Ohio, state. So, again, comment, like, and subscribe. And again, we're at 8 subscribers. I want to get it up to 50 by August. We're going to keep this going, and we're going to keep getting more and more podcasts. And I just love doing it, man. And if I get paid to do this, that would be awesome. But I'm doing it for fun right now, and then hopefully monetization can happen in the future. I mentioned this before in the previous podcast on episode 12, but that is my goal. And the person that's inspiring me throughout this journey of podcasting, even though it's been a short time, is my son. So shout out to him. Shout out to my wife. She's also been a huge inspiration, and she's so proud of me, and I'm happy to have someone, believe in me and what we're doing here. So again, enjoy the rest of the week. If I don't do another podcast for the rest of the week, I might be doing Big Ten preview part 1. But again, my conference winner is Utah, and hopefully they'll have Utah and Texas Tech in the playoff. And again, my Big 10, my Big 12, I'm getting names mixed up. Big 12 Player of the Year is Drew Mestemaker, and then the Big 12 Coach of the Year is Eric Morris. So look for Oklahoma State to surprise some people. All right, guys, thank you, and good night. Peace.